Welcome to Wrestling with My Brothers, bringing wrestling from our family to yours.
All right. Hi, welcome to Wrestling with My Brothers. I'm little sister Emily. We have big brother Derek and then little cousin Ethan. And this is the show where we just kind of run down on our thoughts about wrestling. So for a review, we had this week Lance Archer versus Colt Cabana with Lance Archer taking the win. We had Britt Baker, DMD versus Golden. Do you guys remember her full name?
Cassandra Golden, yeah.
Cassandra
I just like to call her the Golden Girl, Betty White.
And then after that, we had Shadi versus Sammy Guevara with the Spanish God taking the win. And then we had Chuck Taylor versus Kip Sabian, and Kip Sabian took the win.
Primo.
Then we had Justin Law versus Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears took the win. Moxley versus Hager, with Moxley retaining the championship. And that was our night. So let's jump into it.
A night. What a night. So my hot take on this is a little bit of a down week. I'm a big AEW fan, but I will say, Emily and Ethan, that not their best work. Given the circumstances, I know there's a little bit more filler and stuff, and I understand what they were trying to do, but there was only a few things that really captivated me throughout the night. There's a little bit of a bummer, if you ask me. But that's my hot take. We'll get into it a little bit more, but I think they could have had a little bit more of star power and a little less feeder matches. Would have been nice.
Yep. I think that the show had some great parts, but some pretty major disappointments. It's kind of my general view.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to rate this night, this episode was definitely like a 5 out of 10. There was still some good stuff there, and I can see where they're going with it. But overall, it's so obvious to me that they're just trying to keep Guevara, Spears, Archer. They're trying to keep those records up. So they're just throwing some easy matches at him. For Lance Archer, it's a little different because I'm a big Colt Cabana fan, and I was definitely ready for a good match. You know, tonight was not the night.
No boom boom.
So I think the squash matches just aren't any fun, and I know what they're trying to do with the tournament and getting ready for that, but watching a bunch of people get squashed every night's not a lot of fun. So hopefully next week they bring some more star power.
Yeah, and I think Ethan's right with it being that they want to do these squash matches. They want to work on records a little bit because the records do matter, which is really – it's great that they have kept that. But when you have 3 squash matches, essentially 3 squash matches – actually, you did have 3 squash matches because you had the women's match, which was a squash match also.
Yeah.
So you had Spears, Guevara, and the women's match, and then really the Colt Cabana match was kind of a squash match to an extent. That's 4. And to me, that's what I think the rating gets. It's a 4 out of 10. I think Ethan's a little generous with the 5.
Yeah, Orange Cassidy was in this episode, so it's automatically a 5.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He gauges a star just by himself.
Right.
Yeah.
He brings the star power.
Mm-hmm.
So since we all agree that this show was pretty much a downer, let's start with the positives and everyone say their favorite moment from the show.
All right. My favorite moment from the show, I have to say it's going to be a match. That was my favorite. The Chuck Taylor Kip Sabian match. I enjoyed it. It was a good highlight in the show. I think the Best Friends are a really good tag team to watch in general, but they also do really good solo work. And Kip Sabian's a great wrestler. We all know that. And I love how it ended, bringing in Jimmy Havoc, bringing in, like, his girlfriend. What's his girlfriend's name? I can't remember it. Super attractive.
Penelope Ford. I freaking loved Penelope Ford.
Penelope Ford.
And that Hurricanrana that she did off the top rope, that was insane. Like, it was a good match throughout, and it had probably the most exciting ending. And I just really, it was probably my one favorite highlight from the night. And Chris Jericho on the announce table. the whole night. Those are my two favorites. If they just want to keep Jericho on the announce table, I will gladly watch every week, even on the 4 out of 10 nights.
And we'll get to that too, because you can bring him up as your like star for the night, like the person who
he might be.
show.
He might be.
I actually, Derek, I'm in agreement with you that Chuck Taylor and Kip Sabian match. I'm a huge Kip Sabian fan, especially because his moveset is named after Harry Potter. But the best part for me specifically was, and Ethan will probably agree with this, the Orange Cassidy part, mimicking Penelope Ford and doing so in his sloth style. I just thought that was brilliant character development.
Oh, greatest character in AEW.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that match too. I thought it was definitely that was probably match of the night. I think for me, my favorite moment was actually the Hager and Moxley match, though. I just thought they did a really good job keeping both of those wrestlers as big threats, and it wasn't a squash match like the rest of the matches of the night. There was never a moment where I thought, oh, well, Moxley's putting him away. Oh, Hager's putting him away. I just thought the match went back and forth really well, and Jake Hager still seems like a threat to me, even after taking a loss.
Right.
It was a great way to give Hager his first loss while also keeping the suspense of like, well, maybe Moxley could lose it tonight. Who knows?
Yeah. I agree with you, Ethan. That's one of the things that was huge in that match is it felt like an actual fight. Like it didn't feel scripted. Like when they were doing the amateur wrestling at the beginning, when they were doing the moves, the entire time it felt real. Like you didn't know what was going to happen. It just felt like a freaking brawl and had some really good, like real wrestling at the beginning that felt very MMA style. So I like that too.
I am going to disagree, not to bash on your favorite moment. I thought that it was pretty stale. I'm not a big fan of JR's announcing throughout the whole match, especially going from Chris Jericho and then ending the finale match with JR and the reffing in it. When you have Aubrey Edwards and then to go to your main event of the night and have a ref, that, in my opinion, it didn't hold up. I felt it was pretty stale, but I'm also not a fan of MMA, so I didn't enjoy the real wrestling feel to it.
And I'm gonna disagree with you, Emily, on the JR thing. And this is where your youth shows, because you don't appreciate, and Ethan's the same way, the class and the experience and veteran ability that JR brings. When you hear him say slobber knocker, when he's like selling those moves through his words, you don't understand because you are a youth and you don't get it. JR is magic. So
JR's a legend. JR's a legend, but we've also seen what happens to legends when they just try and keep going for a little too long. I mean, I watched that Undertaker match at WrestleMania, and I think sometimes you got to know when to retire.
Yeah, but commentary is different. The other thing, Emily, that I do understand, because you're not an MMA fan, and so if you're more of a pure wrestling fan, the Jake Hager style that he brings and stuff, that's not going to work for you. But what's nice is, in a world that's lacking sports right now, to be able to bring a sporting feel to the fans that might be watching because there's nothing, they can't watch any other sport. I think that that's a really good idea, and it's really captivating to those fans. So while I understand why you might not like it, I think it was really smart for them to do it the way they did it.
That's fair. The theatrics is my favorite part of wrestling. All right. So now that we've shined up the show a little bit, there's a lot of things to be desired. So let's talk about the worst moments. And there's a whole bunch to choose from.
Yeah. So, listen, when you polish a turd, at the end of the day, it's still a turd. Okay? let's not go away from what it is here. So my worst moment, just to keep this order going, what worst moment do I want to go with? Probably the Suge D performance, period. It almost felt to me like they took a random dude off of the street and was like, hey, you've watched wrestling before, right? Like, you understand like how this goes, right? Just go do a few moves out there. Like, his moves were not refined. They didn't look like wrestling moves. Sammy looked frustrated during the match almost. Like, if you watch him, he's not willing to sell certain moves. He gave him some stiff hits because it was just sloppy. His whole gimmick was just like almost like if this is like a parody of wrestling, I just thought it was a really poor performance as a wrestler and made the match kind of suck because Sammy actually did some pretty cool stuff, but Shug D's performance wasn't even good to be like a jobber. It was just like beating up some dude who watched wrestling a couple of times. And I didn't like it. I thought it took away from the quality of the show altogether as well as that match.
Yeah, I thought Shug D did have potential, and I liked the initial what it was going for. But where he didn't sell sometimes, he also oversold, and he did that thing where he'd like just really dramatically flop or land. It was just
I just thought he was terrible. Like I was like, who is this guy? One, like crappy build up. Two, just sucks. He didn't perform in the ring. And like if you watch the other squash matches, the people that are getting squashed are doing a good job of like when they do get their moments, making their hits look good, looking crisp, and when they're getting hit, selling those so well. And I didn't think he did good on either of those. And they gave him a lot more opportunities to shine than they did these other squash matches. So I just thought his performance altogether was
yeah.
I would say that match just goes down as like whatever for me. I wouldn't call it the worst match of the night because we're never going to see Shug D again. I firmly believe that he will never be on the show again. That was a one-time guy for Sammy Guevara to get a win on his record.
You mean Pineapple Pete?
Pineapple Pete.
Chris Jericho kept calling him Pineapple Pete.
Yeah, exactly.
We called him Shug Knight at one point. Like, you can tell that guy's never coming back.
No, I mean, they're not even putting in the effort to get his name right. He's never going to wrestle again for AEW. That was his one shot, and he didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So the absolute worst moment for me was the women's squash match. I hated it. It was nothing. AEW really struggles in their women's division as it is, not because of the lack of talent, but because of the weird booking and who they decide to have as their champion. And it just feels kind of stale. And every once in a while, they have golden, beautiful matches. Like last week's match was insane with Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker. It was just crazy. Oh, gosh, it was so good. With Britt getting her nose busted in, I loved every moment of it. But this week was just so boring, and it was so quick. It was nothing. It didn't make Britt look stronger to me. It did nothing for me besides give her another win.
Yeah, and
also,
that's what this
Golden.
That's what this night was all about, was just getting some of the people that they want to push, getting them one more win in their record. Britt Baker, for some reason, AEW wants me to love Britt Baker, and I can't do it. She's terrible. That promo was awful, and her match wasn't even that fun to watch. Last week, she was great. I think that's my worst moment, too, because Britt Baker's got potential to be good, and she still just doesn't deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's doing this weird teetering of, like, face heel, and I know they don't do that as much as AEW. They kind of let them have that fluidity and stuff, which is nice. But it's like you almost need to pick with her. Like, is she a face or is she a heel? And do a little better of a job. I have to say this. I actually, if there weren't so many squash matches, I actually kind of liked it. Because one of the things she did was, like, the knee and the, like, making, like, that focus on the mouth, which is, like, she's the DMD, you know, that all makes sense. And so story-wise, it builds her and Shida up, which we love that match. Make Britt look strong so that Shida can get that win. Britt looks strong. Let it flow. But the problem is you have 4 squash matches. So if you're going to have a squash match in the women's division, either you need to have another women's match that balances that, or you need to take away the other squash matches. Because I actually kind of liked – I mean, I didn't like Golden. Like, I didn't think she was good. But the whole, like, really making Britt look strong, I didn't mind that. It wasn't a good match by any means, but I didn't mind the storytelling.
I mean, the match was over so quickly, we didn't even get to see what Cassandra Golden looks like. I mean, she sold pretty decently, but I don't even think she got a move off. Britt Baker destroyed her.
I think she is a quarantine jobber. I've noticed they have a lot of people that probably were willing to come and work and stuff. And I think one of the reasons that we saw such a down week is because as of right now, we have till May-ish that quarantine might end, some things might start picking up. So you see, like, next week when we get into it, there's a pretty good card, right? Whereas they knew this week was going to be a little bit of a downplay not working towards much, where next week we could be working back towards maybe live shows, stuff like that. So, I mean, she's a quarantine jobber. That's
Yeah.
her and Justin and Shug. They're all quarantine jobbers.
It was a rough week. Though I do feel like out of all of the jobbers, I did like Justin Law the best.
Yeah, and we'll get back to him because I want to bring it back around after we do some worst moments on old Justin.
Okay, well, I do think that actually wraps up our worst moments. My last little segment before we can just chat about anything is just who do you think?
1 second.
What?
Are we just going to bury Ethan like that?
No,
I don't
Ethan said he had the same worst moment as me.
Oh.
Yeah, I think for me the worst moment was that promo that Britt Baker did. I hate when Britt Baker talks. And they've had her on the announce table. They did a promo with her last night, and I can't stand it.
So
because I know she's good. I know she can talk. I mean, for God's sake, she knows how the inside of a mouth works, so she better be able to talk.
So Ethan's worst moment every week is just going to be Britt Baker's mouth moving. That's what I'm getting. Okay. All right.
But if she does a promo again where she calls herself a face and then goes out and squashes somebody as harshly as she did, I'm going to scream because she's not a face. She's the biggest heel in the women's division, and they keep pushing her like she's some hero.
See, that's where I see what they're trying to do with her gimmick is that she is the more heelish by pretending to be a face. Like, I think that's what they're trying to, but
they're mirroring,
is it successful?
They're mirroring what the other company, the company that shall not be named, is doing with one of their women's champions and trying to do the whole role model, but like satire almost. And I don't like it. I don't like it in the other company, and I don't like it in AEW.
All right. So now it's time for who do you think really saved the show for the night and why? Or, like, if you can't even think of someone, you could just be like, Britt Baker ruined the show so badly, no one can save it.
I have two honorable mentions and then my winner, if that's all right. So my first honorable mention goes to the crowd, and this is just something, especially being our first podcast, I want to mention because it's one of my favorite things with AEW is I love that they're using the talent that's not in the show, and even sometimes that's in the show, as a crowd right now with everything that's going on. It gives that energy. It doesn't give that weird, eerie feeling. You even felt it a little bit in the Moxley-Hager match just with no crowd. But, like, having just any reaction just helps, I think. It also kind of gives it that fun indie feel, like the more crowd interaction and stuff. And I really like that. So one of the things an honorable mention would be the wrestlers that were working as the crowd. I thought they did a good job. And I think they do a good job every week. Second honorable mention goes to Justin Law. As far as in a night full of quarantine jobbers, I thought he did great. One, it's selling. Two, I love the roll-up, just that whole piece. I thought he did the best out of the jobbers. And maybe it shouldn't be an honorable mention to Justin Law. Maybe it should be an honorable mention to Shawn Spears because he did a good job of working with the jobber and making that kind of a funny moment. I enjoyed that. But my savior of the night is the man with the Judas effect, and he didn't even have to do a single wrestling move. Chris Jericho on commentary is gold. He is the best part of any time he steps into a ring. They had even that that weird bubbly bunch promo thing that they did was terrible. Like Santana Ortiz was like awful. It was like all bad. And then all of a sudden, Jake Hager comes on. He had kind of a funny moment with his kids. Sammy Guevara was But then Chris Jericho at the end was great. The no toilet paper thing, the thing with his dogs, like that whole piece was just wonderful. And so him between that and the announce table and the jokes he's making was just great. I love him. He should be Le Champion again.
He's never not Le Champion. He doesn't need gold around his waist.
That's debatable.
Him and Sammy, they're gonna form a tag team, and they're gonna be the Sex Gods.
I love it. I love it.
Going back though to Justin Law, just if you're listening to this on podcast, Ethan's face when Derek said that was the greatest. So Ethan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was just confused with Justin Law because for all these other, like Derek called them, quarantine jobbers, they didn't say like this is their debut in AEW. But for Justin Law, they did this whole like his debut, his first match in AEW. So I expected him to be some real wrestler, some real star. And to just come out and have Shawn Spears manhandle him across the ring. I mean, he got one roll up. That was about it.
A 2 count.
He didn't show me anything. He didn't show me any reason.
Count.
He did not show me any reason that I should be interested in his matches in the future. So again, that's another match where I honestly forgot it happened until I saw it on my notes again.
It was a long 2 count.
Were they hinting that he was one of the candidates to be Shawn Spears' tag team partner? That's kind of what I got.
I didn't catch that. They brought up the Shawn Spears tag team partner thing again, but I didn't notice. I didn't think it was like with Justin Law.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I have to agree with Derek, though. I found Justin a little bit charming. Like the average guy, and he did pretty good. He was like the average Joe.
Yeah, he almost got a 3 count.
Justin Law reminds me of kind of like the James Ellsworth from that other show. I just feel like he but I'm confused because they announced him like he was going to be this next new guy. And I didn't get anything out of him, and I feel like there was potential for more. Maybe he's just not good. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Well, you're wrong.
Okay.
So, my person of the night, and I freaking love her, Penelope Ford, super bad, because she should be the face of their women's division. Her gimmick is clear. She also is a badass. It seems like Kip Sabian is on her arm, not she's on Kip Sabian's arm, and I love that. Agree. And oftentimes that gimmick of, oh, his lady interferes in the match, it seems pretty weak, but she makes that gimmick so strong. The moves she comes in with, she's legitimately wrestling the guys, and I admire her so much. I know she's a heel.
The Hurricanrana Queen, as some might say. I loved her, but I loved what my savior said when he goes, I like Penelope Ford. She wears leather pants. I wear leather pants.
Oh, she's the greatest. And like they go full out with the kissing and not giving a care.
Yeah. The Jimmy Havoc combination though, that's weird. I don't know, but that doesn't have to do with Penelope. It's just a weird combo.
Yeah. I liked the whole match and the whole sidebar, and I'm looking forward to Havoc versus Orange Cassidy next week. But I definitely Penelope Ford, man. I just need more of her. She needs to be the women's champion. That's my thoughts.
I agree. That's fair.
Also, one last thing before. Sorry, Ethan. I think that she and Kip bring up a great opportunity for AEW to bring in like a mixed gender wrestling, because they're already kind of doing that. And then like New Japan, they do men versus women and all sorts of stuff like that. And I just love watching matches like that. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that'd be really exciting when they get around to doing that. But I think honestly, I got to give it to Chuck Taylor. I think that match was, like I said, match of the night. But for me, it was that way because Chuck Taylor kind of stepped out of his comfort zone. You know, he's used to being in a tag team, working with somebody in the ring. And for him and Kip Sabian to put on such an exciting show with Penelope Ford and Orange Cassidy, without it being a tag team match, I think Chuck Taylor really stepped out of his comfort zone and did a good job. So I think, and his personality in the ring, making comments like at one point he goes, I'm going to do another moonsault. And then just goes up to the top rope. I was like, you know, this he's a lot of fun. They're having a good time out there, and it makes me have a good time because they're also putting on a really entertaining match. Now, they're not joking around and goofing off, but they are really entertaining and really funny. So maybe both of them, but mostly I think Chuck Taylor was my guy for that one.
Well, I mean, Ethan, we've had these conversations before. You have always underrated the best friends. Until Orange Cassidy shine some light on them. And I have told you from day one, they are magic. They're good in tag team, singles. He can do a moonsault. I can't do a moonsault. I mean, like,
it sucks for you. I can easily do a moonsault.
No, you cannot do a moonsault. There's not a chance in hell you can.
I believe in you, Ethan.
Thanks.
I think I would agree with Ethan that he's probably the MVP of the night, like outside of my thoughts with Jericho. But also, I think the best friends, that group, like Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, and Chucky T, they're like the MVPs for quarantine. They're like wrestling every week. One of them is. They're making the show fun. They're making these matches like enjoyable. They're good wrestlers. So I agree with you on like his quality.
Well, and like you said, I mean, last week and the week before, these guys are always, if they're not wrestling, they're in the crowd, having a good time, cheering on their friends, their enemies. You know, I mean, they're all part of the crowd and big supporters of each other. I think the best friends they're a lot better than I thought they would be. And I'm happy to say that I was wrong in the beginning.
All right. Well, gosh, what a good time. So what I want to do on Wrestling with My Brothers is for us to have a belt competition. And we do this with pay-per-views outside of this podcast where we verse each other. I think Derek has the AEW belt right now in our family.
Yes. I technically am the AEW pay-per-view champion. I am also the other company's long-time. I may not be it right now, but I have won many matches. So this competition, Emily, is going to favor me over you two.
We'll see. I feel like a weekly competition for a championship is a whole new ball game, and I am saying I'm going to be the champion of it. So each week, we're each going to choose the predictions of the announced matches. So it will just be a few matches. We'll see who's right, and then by the next week, we will have our first ever Wrestling with My Brothers champion. So let's get this started.
AKA Derek.
We'll see. Gosh, this is the living room all over again, just fighting. All right, so our first one, who do you think will win for the TNT AEW Championship bracket between Kip versus Dustin? So Kip Sabian versus Dustin Rhodes. What are your bets?
I'm going to go with Dustin Rhodes. I think you're going to see a little bit more of the Kip Sabian with the best friends storyline, so it wouldn't make sense for him to advance. And I think Dustin is definitely a stronger competitor right now in AEW, so I'm going to go to Dustin.
I also have to go the natural Dustin because I love him, and I cosplayed as him one time, so gotta go that way.
I think I got to go against the grain here. I think they're building Kip Sabian as maybe not as the champion, but they're building him as a contender. And Dustin is somebody who will put somebody else over. I think Kip Sabian's going to win this one.
I love Kip. Kip got me into AEW, but I don't know, Ethan. I don't know.
Wouldn't be the first time Ethan's wrong tonight. Let's just say that.
Hey, what else has he been wrong about?
I don't know. I just remember saying, well, you're wrong. Oh, yeah, Justin Raw. Duh.
Yeah. I mean, that's debatable. Just like Kip Sabian winning is also debatable. He's going to be the champ. He's not going to be the champ, but he is going to beat Dustin.
Yeah. Well,
they're trying to push him as a real contender.
We'll see.
Okay. What about Sammy, the Spanish God, versus Darby?
Man, this is a hard one. They have pushed Darby so much, and I feel like Sammy takes a lot of losses. But, man, I'm going to go – this one's tough. I'm going to go with Sammy. I'm going to go with Sammy Guevara.
My dream match is Darby-Dustin. So I'm going Darby for sure.
That would be a good dream match.
Ethan, what about you?
I could easily – like you said, dream match would be Darby-Dustin. I could easily see a rematch between Darby and Cody since their last one went in a tie. But I think I've got to go with Sammy because I think Jake Hager is going to lose to Moxley over and over. And I think they're going to give somebody in the inner circle something. So I'm going to go with Sammy.
Yeah.
Shoot, they don't want to make the inner circle look weak. But this is just me voting based off of my dream matches. Maybe I'm not putting enough logic into it.
Emily's using her heart, not her brain.
I just love them. All right, and we only have one more announced match that I know of. If you guys know of any others, let me know. But it's Orange versus Havoc, so Orange Cassidy. Jimmy Havoc.
Okay.
The only other thing I know of is I know Kenny Omega is said to be wrestling next week, but I don't know who against.
We know who. So off of what we know as of right now. So who we got? We got Jimmy Havoc versus Orange Cassidy. I think Orange Cassidy is going to win.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Orange Cassidy as well. I think him losing to Pac, that's fine because Pac's a pretty heavy contender for some of these titles. I just think Jimmy Havoc's going to put him over. I think Jimmy Havoc has his gimmick, and he doesn't mind taking some losses.
Yeah, if it's not a death match, I don't think Havoc's gonna win. So, Orange Cassidy for me as well. Also, I just like him more. That's what I vote off of.
I also will say whoever Omega faces next week, Omega will most likely win.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe
and Brody Lee's making an appearance as well.
Maybe we see Adam Page come interfere, and we see some more tension between the tag champions.
Yeah, well, with news, Emily, I'd like to jump into some final thoughts.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
So a quick thing to recap, the other company that shall not be named has had a lot of releases within the past 2 days due to just the situation at hand right now. I think, cutting some financial losses and stuff with wrestlers that aren't being used. So with that being said, a list of people from the other company that have been cut, I would like to see who would you like for AEW to go after from, there's an opportunity here, right? There's a lot of these guys that are high caliber wrestlers that maybe then get their spotlight or maybe have just been underused. And who would you like to see show up on the AEW roster?
Does it have to be someone who we know their contracts are up?
Well, this is within the past 2 days. WWE, or the other company, I'm sorry.
How dare!
Oh my God. Has released, I think it's like 15 wrestlers. I have the list here.
Yeah, so they fired him, ripped up the contract basically.
Right. So, well, I'll avoid kind of the producers and stuff. I will list one person who's listed as a producer, but I'll list these off really quick because these are confirmed releases. Like they're done with the WWE or the twice with the other company. And so I'll list them off, and then I just want to hear who you want to see and maybe why, maybe a storyline real quick, if that's okay with you. So we have Rusev, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Drake Maverick, Eric Young, EC3, Leo Rush, Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Heath Slater, Sarah Logan, Eric Rowan, No Way Jose, Primo and Epico Cologne, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis, Diana Perazzo, I don't even know who that is, Alexander Jaksic, and then Aiden English. Also, as a referee, Mike Chioda has been released, which surprised me. And then Kurt Angle is one of the producers that was released, but we also know that he has a very interesting wrestling background. So with that list, who would you like to see?
Well, I can go off of the easy ones. Eric Rowan has a long history of wrestling with Luke Harper, Brody Lee. So I think that's an easy one. I don't know if they're going to go for that, but it's an easy, just immediate new member of the Dark Order with Eric Rowan. Similarly, Cody on Twitter posted a picture of Zack Ryder with the eyeball emoji, like, oh, he's free. So and Zack Ryder's been friends with the Elite for years now and always talking about how badly the other company treats him. So I think Zack Ryder is easily going to come over. I think we'll maybe see a return of the Long Island Ice, the party boy Zack Ryder come back.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Other than that, I think the rest of them, I don't want to see Kurt Angle. I know this is going to be completely opposite of most people's opinions. I think Kurt Angle is a great wrestler, great producer. I don't really want to see him in AEW. I think that'll just taint it a little too much. And it's just going to become – we've got Matt Hardy. We've got Brody Lee. We've got Jon Moxley. I just feel like if we keep getting these other company superstars, it's just going to be the same thing over again, and I just don't want to see it.
That's fair.
I think the only one for me, because none of my favorites were dropped from the company that shall not be named, Sarah Logan, probably, just because anytime someone goes over to AEW, there's a huge pop, and I feel like I just want to be an advocate for an increased focus in the women's division in AEW, and I think by Sarah going over, she would cause that pop.
Yeah, I could see that. I would say, so with the Sarah Logan thing, I don't think that she adds – I'm just not a fan of her in the other company, and I don't know that she adds a lot of value to the women's division. I don't think that that's going to get what you're hoping for him, like, because I get it. Like, if there was maybe another talent, like a Liv Morgan or somebody who's a really good wrestler, I think that would be okay. Ethan listed off a bunch of ones that I could see, but for me, other than Zack Ryder, because I definitely want to see Zack Ryder over there, Heath Slater would be really good. He's a good worker. I want to see Rusev, because Rusev is underused in the other company, and for him to be able to come over and be able to have a different kind of gimmick, you don't have to be the Bulgarian Brute. I think he would just add so much value upon entering, and he's been not really a mainstay name now for like a year in the other company, so hopefully he wouldn't be bringing over like Rusev Day and stuff. Hopefully it'd be like a fresh slate. But I'd really like to see that, as well as Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, because they were great in Japan and have done work with like the Bullet Club and stuff like that. And so seeing them get that resurgence would be cool. I think there's some good names here, but definitely I'd say my top one would be the big name of Rusev. I agree with Ethan. I don't really want to see Kurt hop on over. It would be okay to see like a cameo, or maybe like how they're using Jake the Snake, something like that, but definitely not as like a main talent.
Just as long as Kurt Angle's not managing his illegitimate son. That would be terrible, and we don't need that again.
Yes, from awful. But so that's just kind of some things that could be shaken up in the wrestling world. I thought getting some final thoughts on that would be nice.
Awesome. Well, anything else, or you guys feel like this wraps up our first episode of Wrestling with My Brother?
The only thing I wanted to say is Colt Cabana deserves better, and I want him to get more of a push. I feel bad for him, and I want him to do better.
Boom, boom. R.I.P. Colt Cabana. My final thought would be, I really hope that next week we get to see a little bit more talent. I'd really like to see the Gunn family get in there. Billy and his son, like, they're on the sideline every week. They're in dark matches, and I'd like their personalities, so I'd really like to see them in there.
Agreed. I keep getting excited when I see the promo for a dark match, and then I realize it's a dark match, and I don't get to see it.
Right.
All right. Awesome. Well, hopefully Colt Cabana gets that push, and we will see you guys next week. We'll also be coming out with a bonus episode. Yay.
Thanks for listening to Wrestling with My Brothers. We hope to catch you next time.